Hi, this is strike in ground transportation in Puerto Rico. As if we didn't have enough problems as it is. Now the truckers have decreed that there is going to be, as of yesterday at 4 in the morning, they have declared that they are not going to pick up any merchandise in the ports or in the airport. Nothing is going to move except maybe something that is of an emergency. So we have to really determine, regardless of which side you take, whether it's true that the truckers need an increase in their regulated tariffs. I mean, this is free enterprise, so I don't know why this should be regulated. Or whether it be that the government was not effective in how they approved this regulation or this change in the tariffs back in December of 2020, or because the oversight board, fiscal oversight board, better known as PROMESA, meddled its influence in determining that, this regulation is going to affect the certified fiscal plan. Baloney. Anyway, I just want you to realize how important this is in terms of the economy, so that you realize how the government really must deal with this. All the parties involved must get together and resolve this because it's going to impact the entire economy. Puerto Rico economy has been in not a recession, a depression since 2007. It's been 14 years, and we don't need this after Hurricane Maria, after the tremors, after COVID 2020. The first graph that I'm going to depict here is the exports, which is the blue shaded columns that you see there, and the imports, which is the orange shaded segment. So as of 2020, the combination of both represents $106.7 billion. Gross domestic product in Puerto Rico is about $102 billion. So that tells you that external trade is even more than 100% of the gross domestic product. So all that merchandise imports, it either comes by air or it comes by sea. It's maritime transportation. But once it gets to Puerto Rico, it has to move throughout the island by truck. It's ground transportation. So that's going to impact exports and imports. Let's look at the second graph. Let's look at how these imports as of 2019, $49.4 billion, are classified according to this final goods, which are the consumer goods, the green segment that you see in this pie chart. They represent 31% of those $49.4 billion in imports in 2019. And of those, $15.2 billion, 15% are automobiles, the segment in that column which is in color shade gray. Food, which is 23%, which is the mustard color, and the rest, which is 62% in terms of all those final goods. Well, everything moves by ground transportation, so there may be a lot of these trucks that need to move merchandise, be it from food, be it automobiles, be it merchandise of all types, and machinery and equipment, which is the next two segments that you see in that pie. Capital goods and raw materials and intermediate goods, which are used for production, they account for 69% of imports. So if they are stalled, you know what's going to happen, whether it be manufacturing, be it retail trade, wholesale trade, transportation itself, hotels, leisure activities. Everything is going to be impacted, and already there are signs that some gas stations have not received not because those trucks are going to be inside the same discussion with the trucks of ground transportation, because they have a separate contract, but out of solidarity, they also are joining this halt, this strike in ground transportation. So it's not going to be nice if we do not resolve this very quickly. Finally, let's look at that third chart on your left, which is the gross domestic product of transportation, be it the blue shaded area, which is air transportation, it represented 257 million that it contributed to gross domestic product, or 19% of all transportation. The magenta segment, which represented $169 million, that's maritime transportation, that represents 12%. And then the red segment that you see there, it's ground transportation, trucks, the ones that are right now in strike, $219 million that they contribute to gross domestic product, or 16% of total transportation. So that implies that they represent 1.1% of gross domestic product, and they employ 16,000 employees. That's about 1.9% according to the establishment survey of the Department of Labor. So we are being rescued or ransomed, or being held hostage to 1.9% of total employment by these trucks, and they represent 1.1% of gross domestic product. This is serious. And then finally, let's look very quickly with import-output of Puerto Rico, the impact that ground transportation, what it sells to different segments, so that you can get an idea, a flavor of how it's going to be impacted in manufacturing. It's going to be affected in 18% of the sales of ground transportation go to manufacturing. Warehousing, the segment that is in green, 31%. Utilities, that's electricity, water, all those pipes, that machinery that is needed, all the generators, they come through the ports of Puerto Rico, and they're not going to be hauled by these trucks. They represent about 13%. Construction, 12.4%. We need a lot of $1 billion are coming from federal funds, and it's going to be halted because there are not enough materials. They are there in the ports in Puerto Rico, and so we need to resolve this very quickly. Next week it's going to be closed by the government of Puerto Rico because after a year and a half of rest by public employees, well, the governor decided that, of course, they also need another additional week of rest. It's incredible. That's not the way to pull this country out of the doldrums of this deep recession. Don't forget, those of you who like our capsules, give us a like in YouTube under the voice of Heidie Calero. Stay safe. Thank you.